Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning into the world, wherever you are in the world tuning in to episode 17 of A Voice from the Ever Change. First, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday weekend, happy Easter. If you're celebrating Easter, happy Passover. Here in Thailand, we are celebrating Sokram, which is Thai New Year's, all week this week. So they really know how to celebrate here in Thailand. They take a whole week to celebrate New Year's. So that's all very exciting stuff, and I hope everyone is in a good place this weekend. I know that's a tough call to fill, but hopefully we're finding some peace, some quiet, and maybe a laugh or two over a Skype call with our family, or if we're lucky enough to be with family this weekend, that is well. So Sunday evening is question and answer evening on A Voice from the Ever Change. I know you're all excited about that. I am too. So, and it was quite interesting when I was putting the episode together this evening. I don't really rehearse for this stuff, as you might have noticed, but I do kind of try to prep, if you will. And so when I was going through some of the questions that were sent forth, I recognized that the questions that I had received this week, a great portion of them, were actually coinciding with the next page of the book A Voice from the Ever Change, where I read from. So I don't have to step out of the format, actually. I'll just read the next page of the book as a way of guiding a meditation, and then I'll read a commentary from the poem. Now, if you're following along in A Voice from the Ever Change book, I believe this is poem 5 of chapter 2 on resting. Now, I've spoken quite a bit on the benefits of resting meditation practice here in this series, and on the benefits of meditation in relationship to pain management. So I won't go too much into those techniques here, but I'll be talking about some other benefits that I haven't touched on so much. Now, if you are curious about all of that, you can check Mindfulness Made Simple page on my website, www.suchsweetthunder.org. So here this evening, then, I'll be keeping the same format that I have been. I'll ring the bell. I'll guide us into silence. We'll go into a silent meditation. I'll start with the breath, the body. We'll add the sounds of the present moment. And then I'll offer a poem. Now, the poem just happened to be a poem answering the question, the benefits of meditation, the questions that I received. Why should I meditate? What are some of the benefits of meditation? Why meditation? And so the poem that I'm going to read actually pertains to that. So I'll be reading this poem, and then I'll be reading a commentary again as a way of answering those questions. Why do I meditate? What's the big deal about meditation? It's such a buzzword these days. What are some of the benefits? What do I gain by meditation? And again, just allowing the words to the poem and the commentary to guide your awareness wherever it may want to go. Then after the poem and the commentary, I'll do a little bit of talking. Most likely, I generally do, although all of that is totally improvised, unrehearsed, off the rails, if you will. So I'll just be riffing at that point. Hopefully I won't offend anyone. Okay, so I'll ring the bell, and here we go. Enjoy. So allowing the body, mind, and heart to rest. Just coming into this present moment experience, noticing the breath as it enters and leaves the nose. Noticing the breath as it touches the back of the throat. Noticing the rib cage expanding and contracting with each breath. There might be sensations of clothing moving to adjust with the rising and falling of the body. Noticing the abdomen rising and falling with each breath. You might also notice the back moving out as you breathe in and in as you breathe out. You might also notice the shoulders rising and falling with each breath. And as you breathe in, you might also notice the body straightening up, and as you breathe out, perhaps the body leaning forward. And so we'll rest right there for a few moments, maintaining awareness on the sensations of the breathing process. Sensations arising from the nose, the back of the throat, the chest and shoulders and back and abdomen. And any other sensations that you might notice arising as a result of the breathing process. And just rest. And if at any time during the meditation practice you become distracted by your thoughts, you can label those thoughts with the word thinking, which will allow the thoughts to go, and you can gently return back to the present moment experience. And now, while maintaining awareness on the sensations of the breath, from the nose to the abdomen to the nose, allow awareness to expand again to include sensations of clothing against the shoulders, noticing the arms against the body, noticing the hands resting against the body or touching each other. And you might also notice sensations of clothing against the back, the weight of the body against the cushion or chair, mat or floor. You might notice sensations of clothing against the legs, the feet against the mat or the floor. And while maintaining awareness on all of that, bringing attention to the top of the head, noticing any sensation rising from the crown of the head, the back of the head, there might be sensations arising from the back of the neck, the ears, noticing any sensations arising from the face, including the lips, the nose and the eyes, Sensations arising from the forehead. Resting attention back at the top of the head. And so we'll rest right there just for a few moments, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the sensations of the breath, from the nose to the abdomen to the nose, and sensations arising throughout the body, from the top of the head to the bottoms of the feet. Just rest, breathing in and breathing out. And now, while maintaining spacious awareness on the sensations of the breath, from the nose to the abdomen to the nose, and sensations arising throughout the body, from the top of the head to the bottoms of the feet, allow awareness to expand again, to include any sounds which might be available during this present moment experience. There might be the sound of rain falling, perhaps the sound of traffic if you're living in a city. There might be the sound of a neighbor's television, or perhaps a conversation happening nearby. Not focusing on any one sound in particular, but noticing the entire field of sound. Listening to the universe orchestrate the soundtrack of the present moment. And in addition to the sounds, paying close attention to the quality of still silence within the sense of hearing. There's always this silent space which surrounds the present moment. And so we'll rest right there, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the sensations of the breath, the body, silence and sound, and just rest. Breathing in and breathing out. The poem. What is inside? Only what you bring with you. In the silence of meditation, this we can clearly see. What should I do? Simply rest in what is. Non-judgment and compassion, silence and equanimity. What can I gain? Nothing. But if you practice deeply, you just might lose everything. Rest, complete, free. Just rest. Just rest. The commentary. In the silence of meditation, we are consistently confronted with and by ourself, over and over and over again. I often find this comforting to know that with each experience we have, it is, in the end, ourself looking back at ourself. Carl Jung pointed this out, that in our dreams, each character, each animal, beast, friend or foe in the dreamscape is a representation of ourself, our own ego projected outward on the dreamscape. No matter how much that might look like our mom, a dragon, our best friend, or our lover, in the end, it is our own self projected outward. Now, is that really that much different than the actual landscape of waking life? Each experience we have is intimately intermingling with our own fears, desires, our likes and dislikes, our cravings and aversions, and so forth. In meditation, we slow all of that down so we can clearly see our own heart and mind. We begin to see our own tendencies and projections, and we recognize which of these we are inclined to prefer in any given situation. Over time and with practice, we learn that we do not need to believe in those projections, for we begin to see, recognize, and understand the dream. This, in turn, allows us to experience a more accurate world, a world which is provided to us prior to our own projections, discriminations, preferences, prejudices, attractions, and aversions. We may still experience our own ego projected outward onto the landscape of our life, much in the same way we experience our own archetypes during the night's dream. We no longer buy into those projections. We recognize the play of our own ego. We can see our own self projected out onto our experience. We may then be free to respond creatively to the present moment, rather than reacting to our own ego superimposed out upon the world. So what do we gain by taking up a practice of meditation? What are the benefits? As a meditation teacher, I am often asked this question: why should someone take up the practice of meditation? As simple as this question sounds, there really isn't a pat answer. The benefits and effects of a meditation practice can vary greatly, depending on many factors. Perhaps the most helpful way for a beginner to approach this question is for them to ask themselves, why are they taking up the practice of meditation to begin with? What do they hope to gain or achieve by studying meditation? Some people come to a meditation practice to relax or to bring a sense of calm. Some people to release stress. For such reasons, I recommend a lighter meditation schedule, perhaps 15 to 20 minutes a day of following the breath and watching the thoughts will suffice. If the student hopes to go deeper into the nature of experience and to perhaps change their relationship to life itself, it usually takes a more practice for those types of results. For this, I recommend meditating for at least 35 minutes to an hour, at least once a day. The basic idea behind all meditation practices, from mantras to chanting, to following the breath and labeling the thinking process, to prayer and so forth, it's all the same. The idea there, the basic idea, is to interrupt or disrupt the verbal mind. Things may indeed vary greatly from there, depending on the type of meditation that's being done, but by interrupting the constant stream of thought, we begin to release ourselves from our identity with the thinking process itself. We begin to see that we are not the thoughts, but we are the open, clear, vast space in which the thoughts arise. The release from the thinking process is extraordinarily freeing on many levels. It is impossible to go into detail of all of the benefits that type of freedom brings, but I can list a few of the main points. Number 1, experience of nature tends to become more vivid. Number 2, experience of life without the constrictions of self-definition. We set ourselves free from our own definitions. Number 3, experience others without labeling or defining them. So we set others free from our definitions of them as well. Number 4, we begin to live a life free from cultural and social expectations. Now, those are some of the real deep benefits when somebody engages in a meditation practice with the intention of changing their relationship to life. So somebody who comes and meditates daily for anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour. Now they may miss a day, 2 here or there, but that's a deeper, more committed practice, these benefits. After some years of a deep practice, there may be other profound insights which arise into the nature of being. These insights may vary in degree and intensity, depending on the type of practice being done, the student, and other variables. But generally speaking, they may look something like this. Number 1, moral stages of development unfold much faster. Number 2, conventional notions of success and failure no longer hold purchase. Number 3, a sense of compassion, loving kindness, joy, and equanimity arise. Number 4, conventional notions of time begin to break down. Number 5, fearlessness becomes a way of life. Number 6, emotional intelligence increase. And number 7, the possibility of experiencing discomfort without an emotional reaction becomes a reality. Now don't worry, there won't be a test on any of these. I just felt like numbering the benefits in list format would read much easier, but I don't expect anyone to memorize that. And I'll continue with the commentary. When it is presented in this way, it actually seems as if there is much to be gained by a meditation practice. Why then, in the poem, does it state nothing to be gained? In fact, it explicitly states the opposite. There is a possibility of losing everything. That's not exactly good PR for the meditation teacher, is it? So let's look a little bit closer at those benefits I listed above. The experience of nature becoming more vivid is actually the experience of the deadening aspects of the incessant overthinking dropping away. When we are able to rest in the stillness of the mind, nature reveals itself to be extremely alive, filling the senses with sound and scent, teeming with vibrations of life, pulsating with a creative force which, until now, had remained hidden behind the shroud of labels, definitions, thoughts, plans, and worries. In meditation, we lose all of that. when we allow the chains of self-definition to drop away and thus free ourselves to respond to life through wisdom and compassion, that's another loss. We are allowed to meet others with that same loss of definition and labeling, another loss. We may also lose the tenuous ground of cultural and social expectations and constraints. We see those structures for what they are: transient, impermanent, and fleeting. By practicing meditation, we begin to sense the underlying landscape of timelessness which unites all time-bound experience. When this begins to occur, we lose our constant fascination with what we might need to achieve, or what we may fear in the future, or what we should have done or regret doing. We lose the attachment to habits and patterns which have kept us locked into emotional reactivity. We may eventually lose attachment to the conventional notions of success and failure, as our sense of joy in simply being alive becomes the only measure of success. That is yet another example of a loss of attachment which brings great freedom. We may lose the need to react to the arisings of life through our fear. We begin to recognize that it is always that fear which keeps us locked into reactivity, thus separating us from our natural states of being: compassion, loving kindness, joy, and equanimity. So thank you for tuning in to A Voice from the Ever-Change, the Q&A Sunday evening episode. The question was, why should I meditate? What are some of the benefits? And here I went through actually something I've written in the book, A Voice from the Ever-Change, where I addressed that again. And I went kind of into the type of meditation practice where a student comes to the meditation really with the desire to experience life in a different way, to change their relationship with their life. And so that does require, as I mentioned, more of a commitment, if you will. At least a 30-minute meditation practice a day, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Now, when people start meditating, I don't recommend starting there. Start light. Start with maybe 5 minutes a day. And so there, the goal of the meditation there, at the very beginning of a meditation practice, is to make sure you do it every day. And it's very difficult to find an excuse not to sit for 5 minutes, right? Even as busy as we can be, and these days we're not all that busy, most of us, unless we're working in the medical field or delivering food. So it's difficult to find a reason not to just sit and follow the breath for 5 minutes. Beautiful. Do that for maybe 2 weeks. Now, if that 5 minutes seems too short consistently for maybe 5 or 6 days, then bump the timer up to maybe 10 minutes a day. And then just do 10 minutes a day for maybe a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. When that 10 minutes a day feels too short consistently, bump the timer up again to 15 minutes, and so forth. Now, after a few months, that meditation practice will be as habitual as any other habits you have, as cooking breakfast, as brushing your teeth, as changing into your pajamas at night. As you do all of those things, you also will meditate. It becomes a part of your life. Now, when that happens, when we've reached that stage of the practice, then we can move into meditating for a half an hour every day like that. And then we can start to farm some of those benefits that I read through in this commentary here. How our concept of time will change, how we'll start to really contact our natural expressions of loving kindness, of compassion, of joy, of equanimity, and so forth. And so those are really profound shifts in awareness that can happen as a result of a consistent meditation practice. Now again, some of us here might be just wanting to meditate to kind of release some stress. That's great. Really, that requires much less. You can just maybe sit for 10 minutes and just follow the breath, just feel the breath. You might do that once in the morning, once in the evening, or even just 5 minutes, just feeling the breath. Your mind starts to wander, you say thinking, oh, I'm thinking. You let those thoughts go, you come back and feeling the breath again. And you do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you'll start, and you do it consistently, you'll start to notice the stress release as well. Now, that's one of the great things, is that even if you come to a meditation practice with the idea that you want to embrace this new way of seeing the world, this new way of experiencing life, you'll start to reap the benefits of stress reduction right away. So either way, with either intention in mind, that stress release, that more relaxed way of being in the world, that is accessible for most meditators right at the beginning. You start to notice that after maybe a week or two of practice like that. So that's generally one of the low-hanging fruit that people reach when they start a meditation practice. Now, what can happen at that point is that it might feel so good that you want to boost the timer up naturally, or you might say, oh, this is really good, I would like more of that, and you start to dedicate more time to the meditation practice. Also, what might happen is we might start to get frustrated. Maybe it's really active, and we think, oh, I can't meditate because the mind is too active. That's not the case. Everybody's mind is very active. I've never met somebody who couldn't meditate, but the active mind will be there. And so the idea then is just to be patient with the mind. I'll put this down. Be patient with the mind, because the mind will want to think. And just patiently, when you notice the mind distracted by thought, just patiently label the thinking process with the word thinking. That thought will dissolve. You gently come back to the present moment. And as one teacher I read likes to say, Jack Kornfield, a really wonderful insight meditation teacher, he compares it to training a puppy. Very much the same, actually. You know, when you're training a puppy, you're patient with the puppy. You want to show the puppy love, right? So you put the puppy down on the newspaper and the puppy runs off to one of the corners of the room, and you just say, okay, you gently bring the puppy back and set him on the paper again. And a few seconds later, he's running off to the other corner of the room, and you just kind of laugh, and you get the puppy and you gently bring him back to the newspaper again. It's very similar with the mind. You put the mind on the breath, and the mind will run to one corner of the thoughts, and you just gently say, okay, come back. Bring the mind back to the breath again. But before you know it, it's going away to the other side. And then you just gently bring it back. Now, the good news is that each time you go through that process, you're strengthening the muscle of awareness and attention. You're getting stronger with your awareness and attention each time you get distracted and return. So getting discouraged by the amount of thoughts you have is kind of like going to the gym and getting discouraged by the amount of weights there are in the gym, right? Because each thought, each distraction is actually an opportunity to cultivate a higher sense of awareness and attention. So thinking, oh, can let that go. You can actually celebrate that you recognize that you were distracted. Now I'm getting stronger, I'm coming back. Then a distraction comes again. You're off thinking about whatever it is. Oh, I'm thinking. Let that go. Come back. Ah. Each time you're lifting the awareness and attention barbells. Like that. So with that heightened sense of awareness and attention, eventually what happens is we develop insight. We start to be able to see the patterns and habits that we embark on that might bring us suffering or might bring others suffering. And we start to slowly unhook ourselves from those habits and from those patterns. So we can start to live a life that's a little more free from that type of struggle. Another great benefit that really pertains to what's happening in the world with the coronavirus. I know there's a lot of stress, a lot of tension, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of aversion in the mind. And so just recognizing that each time the mind goes off on that tangent, recognizing that that is just thought. And you say thinking, it's that same process that we do in meditation. You could be anywhere. You could be at the kitchen cooking breakfast, and maybe the news is on in the background and your mind starts to go down that dark road. That's just thinking. Come back to the present moment. Hear the frying, maybe you're cooking eggs. Hear the frying of the eggs. Hear the rice cooker bubbling. Whatever it is, hear the coffee maker percolating. Noticing the present moment sounds. Then you might, if you're cooking breakfast, noticing the smells of the breakfast that's cooking. That takes you out of the thinking mind and back into the present moment. Like that. You'll notice that aversion arises from anxiety, from a future that we really have no idea about. It's just an imagination. So we let that go. As Mark Twain once said, all of the worst things that have ever happened to me in my life have never happened. Pointing at that idea that the mind creates these landscapes that we most likely will never have to travel through. So we just say thinking, we let that go, we come back to the present moment. Now that doesn't mean we turn a blind eye to what's happening. Doesn't mean we shut our heart off to what's happening in the world. We can still have compassion for people. We can still recognize that there is suffering happening. But we can be in the present moment with that experience, so we don't go down the roads of aversion in our mind, which causes great stress and great anxiety. It doesn't do anybody any good. So each time we recognize the thinking mind, come back to the present moment. I like the sounds. The sounds are always accessible, right? But present moment experience can be sound. It can also be sensations of clothing on the body, sensations of the body, perhaps your feet against the floor. If you're outdoors, just noticing the sunshine, that's always present moment. If you live in the UK, you might notice the clouds, always present moment. And just be there. Now the thoughts are tenacious. The thinking mind will always be thought. So it's a diligent practice. And again, so not to get frustrated, if you try this as a practice, you go off in thought, thinking, coming back. Off in thought, thinking, coming back. That's a natural part of the process. So, but it's such a release just to find that space in the present moment. It could just be a moment. It could be 2 seconds, it could be 5 seconds, it could be 10 seconds. But to find that gap in between the thoughts. Rest. I don't need to be thinking. So it's very often overlooked that the thinking process is habitual. It's optional. And so using the present moment sounds, the present moment sensations of the body and breath as a way of just interrupting that stream of thought, even for a moment, and finding relief in that release. And you can try that as an experiment. Say, maybe just for the next 5 minutes, I'll just watch how my mind works. And each time I recognize that I'm not feeling the breath or not feeling the body, I'll recognize coming back to the breath and the body, and see what happens. Try it as an experiment, as a game. So I think that's all I want to say this evening or this morning or this afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, welcome, and I'll be back again tomorrow at the same time, 7 p.m. in Thailand, which I believe is 8 a.m. on the east coast of the USA. I think it's sometime in the afternoon in Europe. Again, a happy, very, very happy holiday weekend if you're celebrating Easter or Passover. Hope we're all making the best out of the situation, trying to enjoy the day as best we can. Maybe enjoying a FaceTime or a Skype with some family or friends across the ocean or across the world. Here in Thailand, it's New Year's week, Sokram. So a happy Sokram to all of those in Thailand who are tuning in. And I will see you all tomorrow. Okay. Be well, be safe. Remember your social distancing, 3 meters apart, which gives you 1 meter to spare. And sanitize your hands, keep washing, keep clean, stay home if possible. And much love, much peace.